Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Rundown, where we talk about 2A news and conservative views. I am your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. But as we all know, I do not do this program by myself.
No, because I help. My name is Mike Piwowarski. I am your co-host for today, the co-host from the East Coast, the coast with the most, from the co-host with the most here on the Rundown 2A news, conservative views. Craig, how's your Thirsty Thursday?
My Thirsty Thursday has been, it's been interesting. It's been a good one so far. Loving it so far. Looking forward to a nice Father's Day weekend, though.
When's that?
That's coming up this weekend.
This weekend.
This weekend, yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, I guess I know now.
Yeah. If you don't know, now you know.
Yeah, that's more warning than I had before Mother's Day weekend, so I guess I'll be all right. Okay.
Well, Father's Day is always treated like, okay, well, I guess if we're gonna have a Mother's Day, if we're gonna have Mother's Day, we kind of got to do something for Father's Day.
That's the only reason we have a Father's Day is because there's a Mother's Day. That's one to see fair. Yeah.
It's amazing the amount of effort that we go to for Mother's Day, but Father's Day is always just kind of okay, well, maybe we'll just leave Dad alone. Let him do what he wants. Let him eat what he wants. That's our gift.
Right, yeah. Yep.
And
Dad, we're gonna leave you alone. It's actually a pretty good gift, just some chill time.
There you go.
Don't stand between me and the TV and have a conversation with them. Somebody else. That's just
No, not a good idea. Not a good idea.
No.
Although I love it. My wife, it's the funniest thing because I'll tell you, DVR saved my marriage because she had this uncanny ability to be able to come and want to have a conversation right at the worst time, whether it was during a sporting event or watching a show. You know how you watch a show, right? An hour-long show.
Yep.
The last 10 to 15 minutes is when, the killer's revealed and all the action happens, right?
Yeah.
That's when she would want to have a conversation. The advantage of the DVR was I could go, pause. Yes, honey.
Oh, yeah. No, I love it. Listen, that's the same thing here at my house is everybody wants to have a conversation 2 seconds after the commercials are over.
Right.
It's like uncanny. And then you just pause and you're like, what? I mean, you're sitting here in the same room, right? And you saw 3 minutes of commercials and you waited until they were over and the show started to ask, go ahead.
Well, no. Okay, so, all right, since we're on this subject, here's another funny one. So driving in the car, no radio on, completely silent.
Oh, yeah,
so you turn on the radio. As soon as you turn on the radio, you get asked a question.
It's unbelievable. It's like women can't have anything else making noise but themselves. It's just they're okay with silence, but if there's going to be other noise, it has to be them.
Right. Honey, if you're listening, I love you. I know my son listens, and my son and my father-in-law listen, so don't tell her. Just telling you right now, don't say nothing.
Yeah, wait till after Father's Day to tell her. That way,
there you go. Wait till after Father's Day. That'll be my Father's Day gift. Just don't say nothing. Yeah. Don't say nothing till after Father's Day.
There you go.
Hey, folks.
Now I know my family's not listening, so we're good.
Hey, folks, do us a favor. If however you're watching, however you're listening, do us a favor. Make sure like, share, subscribe. Encourage your friends to do the same. Remember, tell them they can watch us on Facebook. They can watch us on YouTube. They can watch us on Rumble. You can watch us on Spotify, OpsLens. And there, by the way, you can also listen to the audio version of this wherever you get your podcasts. So check it out. Subscribe. It'll be pushed to you. You'll be able to listen to the Rundown every day, Monday through Friday.
Yes. Do that. Do like he said. Do it a lot.
Do that stuff.
Yo, do that thing. Do that thing.
There you go.
Do the thing with the guy. Do it.
The thing with the guy. All right. It's about that time for us to get into today's stories. Now, Mike, did you know that has been released? There was a plot, mind you, to occupy Capitol buildings and the courts during the January 6th insurrection.
Yeah, an actual written plot. Yeah.
Yes, there was an actual written plan / plot, and it was being distributed, or at least was sent to none other than the Proud Boys. That's right. Before January 6th, Proud Boys leader Enrique Torrio. By the way, the Proud Boys are white supremacists.
That's
Just so
right.
you
That's
know,
white
that's
supremacist
what they're called. They're
Enrique
white.
Tarrio.
They're
Yeah.
white nationalists, white supremacists. I'm just like, look, dude. Okay, so check it out. If you're a white supremacist group that has an Afro Latino as your leader, you're doing the whole white supremacy thing wrong. Just saying.
That reminds me of when, remember the Dave Chappelle skit when
Oh yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. But anyway, so the point of this whole piece is somebody had sent. They were calling it 1776. Well, first they're calling it 1776 returns, right? And the whole point of this was basically what happened was someone had sent him a plan on how they could occupy, which pretty much amounts to, Mike, a sit-in. They're in a sit-in, in essence. In other words, it wasn't the Capitol, it was legislative buildings. It talked about how they could basically be in those buildings and protest, and they would basically be doing a sit-in. What's interesting is that this is, by the way, this guy's being charged with sedition and conspiracy, right?
Yeah.
But all it really notes, and anything, it's just like, we're going to be there. We're going to protest. There's nothing about bringing arms. There's nothing about violence. No. There's nothing about attacking police. They aren't even talking about the Capitol building itself, right? No. Yet and still, this is a big part of what is being used as the premise for these additional charges.
Yeah, they talk about you're sitting in the three Senate and House office buildings, where the offices are, and doing just like that, an old school sit-in where their voices must be heard. That's what they talked about. It's to come in, sit down, and make sure that their voices were heard. There's no plans of violence in there. There's no mentions of firearms. There's no mentions of overtaking anything. It's just, now they were hoping, listen, Craig, to cause a delay. So they had to be listened to. That was it, So, all right, listen, if you want to go meet your, congressional duties, you're going to have to address us first. That was it. But it was by reason of, we're sitting, 500 deep outside your office, so you can't leave.
Well, exactly. And as is noted here, the goal was to maintain control over a select few but crucial buildings in the D.C. area for a set period of time, presenting our demands in unity. We must show politicians we, the people, are in charge, right? But once again, there's absolutely nothing in here about any sort of armed surrection or takeover of the government. Yeah. And yet, once again, this is what's being put out there. This is what people are saying. And they're talking about, he's charged with conspiracy, and there was a plot to occupy the Capitol. See,
yeah, well, there is. I mean, anytime somebody, Craig, they just had the march on the mall in D.C. because somebody has to do something right about guns, right? Mm-hmm. Did they not think that wasn't planned? Did they think they all just showed up? We were like, oh look, we heard there was pudding. No, they planned that ahead of time. That's how these events occupied the Capitol Mall. That's how protests occurred.
Right.
What's that?
And they occupied the Capitol Mall.
Yes, exactly.
Which, by the way, includes federal grounds.
Yep, exactly right. Yeah.
But
yeah, no,
but see, here's the problem. Here's the difference is they're gun grabbing liberals, and our folks are conservatives. So therefore, their protest is our insurrection.
Yeah, and just it gets me, the whole term of insurrection, Craig. If this was an insurrection, we'd have a different form of government right now, or at least have new people in power. Well, and I think that's a lot of what it was. When you hear people say things like it's a 1776 organization, let's just put this out there. 1776 organization. Nobody's talking about coming in and laying out an entirely new government. They're right. Talking about clearing the swamp. They're talking about ending career politicians and letting senators serve for 1 or 2 terms, and that's it. That's I think that's more what it comes to, is we're ending the term career politician. And if this had been a true insurrection, their asses would be sitting at home in their home states. and they would not be in DC anymore.
Well,
But it's not.
Mike, but
This was a protest. This was a sit-in.
yes.
This was an occupation. That's all it was.
And by the way, that doesn't mean that during this protest that there weren't people there who engaged in both destruction of property and violence. It was
We know
not
there
the
are.
majority.
Yeah.
It wasn't even a significant. Well, I don't want to say it wasn't a significant minority. It wasn't a majority. And the very fact that you've basically got about a little under 800 people who've been charged, and almost none of them with violence. I mean, very, very few of them with actual violent behavior.
Yeah.
Tells you, or weapons charges. That tells you how. Yet no, this was not an insurrection.
I mean, I'd go even as far to say, as an example, look at all the other protests and that occurred around the country that summer, right? The summer prior, and you probably had, I don't know, make a number up, I don't know, 70-80% of people that were out there to do legitimate protesting, and then the 20% of the ass clowns that showed up to steal TVs and light buildings on fire. It's the same kind of thing. There's those people that are going to take advantage, no matter what, to make an average situation, a legal situation, into a criminal enterprise.
And by the way, there were also people there whose goal it was to agitate and get those people there who were there, to get them to get engaged and do stuff that they otherwise probably wouldn't have done. In both cases, there were agitators.
The only thing the insurrection was missing, Craig, was a pallet full of bricks. That's it.
Frozen water bottles too. Don't forget that.
Yeah, there you go.
Frozen water bottles. Now, there is a question on whether or not the quote-unquote insurrection, the January 6th protest, was an armed insurrection. And here's the reason why this one is kind of important, because Newsweek decided that they were going to do a piece on, they're going to do an analysis on whether or not the January 6th was, quote unquote, an armed insurrection, right? Or let me clarify. Their analysis was, were there armed protesters at the Capitol on January 6th? Now, most people, I don't believe anybody is saying that nobody of consequence is saying that nobody had firearms on January 6th. What they're saying is it was not an armed insurrection. But anyway, so what they proceeded to do here in this piece in Newsweek is to point out, the number of times or instances of people being charged with weapons charges, some directly related to January 6th or what was going on there at the Capitol, as well as some people, they allegedly, I'm like this. At this point, now this piece was written, let me see here. This piece was written, where's the date on it? So this piece was written a couple of days ago. So at this point, we know it's not allegedly whether or not these people were involved. We know or we don't know at this point. But what's funny about this one, Mike, is now less than a dozen people were charged with on weapons charges. Only one of that's, by the way, people who were in or around the Capitol in many cases on Capitol grounds with a firearm. Almost all of them were either off-duty cops or had concealed carry permits. The one person that I've been able to find who was charged with being in the Capitol with a firearm was an off-duty DEA agent. What do we call those? Fed.
Fed.
That's that's what that was. I'm just like, okay, was it an armed insurrection? I think not.
Craig, you saw all of the individuals wearing their body armor or their kits, right? Their ballistic paneled vests or whatever, even if it was just the carriers without the panels in it. We saw, you did see a decent amount of people wearing that gear. If this was an armed insurrection, they would be wearing that gear and wearing the rifle and helmet to go with it. That's an armed insurrection. These were a couple of people that were at a protest and that were lawfully carrying. Now, remember, the law enforcement officers, they get to carry anywhere in the country under HR 218, right? So they get to carry that way, although they can't commit crimes while carrying. although at the time they didn't believe this was a crime, they believed this was an honest protest. The others that had concealed carry licenses from other states and came into DC, they violated DC law, right? DC has a no concealed carry reciprocity. So once again, Greg, now we've defined a line on the ground as of what's legal on this side is not legal on that side. Now makes me a criminal. These were people carrying their own everyday carry personal defense weapons, whether it was the individuals or it was law enforcement. That's not an armed insurrection. That's people that had their own firearm on them, but that's not an armed insurrection. An armed insurrection is when everybody gets the guns and goes in like this, Craig, and they come in and they kick down doors. They do SWAT team style and they go hut 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 hut. They move around. That's an armed insurrection. This was a couple of people that had their otherwise legally owned firearms with them during a protest.
Right. And,
concealed, by the way, let's be sure we're not concealed firearms.
Right.
All right.
I would venture to say, just based on the number of people that I know and that you know who went there and knowing and understanding their backgrounds, there would have been dozens, if not hundreds of other firearms there if that were an actual armed insurrection.
I know if this was an armed insurrection, every one of them would have had you ready for this, Craig? Weapon of war, right? An assault rifle. Right. They all would have been carrying those to establish ownership of the Capitol buildings.
I don't get how the left can continue to perpetuate some of this stupidity, and it literally is just stupidity, and people buy into it.
Yeah, well, it's because look, these are the same people that voted for Biden, right? The same people that voted for Hillary Clinton. Mm-hmm. They don't care what their results are, Craig. They don't care the means to get there. They just know, Orange Man bad tweets, and they'll listen to anything that you tell them to keep the Orange Man bad from being there.
Yep, that's pretty much that right there is pretty much how it works, and it is beyond frustrating.
Yeah.
But in the end, I think what we're going to find is that in most of these cases, most of these people are either going to plea out or they're not going to be convicted. And by the way, the reason why many of them are going to plea out is because having an attorney is expensive, and they're in many cases being overcharged. And many of these folks, if they actually bothered to take it to trial, would probably, in my opinion, would be acquitted.
And we've seen that. We've seen a couple that have gone to trial. The judge has thrown them out.
Right. With the exception of the most egregious folks, people who just did really stupid stuff. And by the way, if you did stupid stuff, you should pay the price. Stupid should hurt. Right. But having said that,
those that have committed crimes, those that have committed actual crimes or property crimes or persons crimes, those people we've seen and they've gotten what they deserve. But those that have just went on the tour like everybody else, with the cops holding doors open, we've seen those acquitted.
Well, and I'll bet you're going to see in a lot of these cases, what they're going to do is they're going to get them to plead, and they're going to agree to a plea of time served, because many of these folks have been in jail this entire time.
Yeah, it's pretty. You tell me that's not a Fourth Amendment and a Sixth Amendment violation, right?
Well, who knows? We will. The funny part is that once Republicans take over the Congress, we will have an investigation of the investigation.
That's right. Hopefully. That's right. Yep. And
all right, moving right along. You've probably heard the story about the two law enforcement officers in El Monte who were shot. Very, 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 very sad story. They were showing up on the scene of a crime where a woman had been stabbed, and they were pretty much ambushed by a felon who was in possession of a firearm. This was an individual who had been, this guy right here, who had been arrested multiple times on multiple felonies. In fact, the third time he was out recently in 2020, he was arrested for being a felon in possession with a firearm. He served about a year and a half. Now, according to California laws, as I understand it, that would have made him a third striker. Felon in possession, that's obviously a felony. He would have been the third striker. My question is, how did he get out in a year and a half? Well, he's in Los Angeles. So you can thank the good folk there in the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office, Mr. Gascon?
Oh, Gaston. Yeah. First off, let's again, all of our sympathies go out for Corporal Michael Paredes and Officer Joseph Santana there in the El Monte Police Department. Craig, the reason, because he was arrested for this for narcotics possession and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, is he was arrested and never charged. He's never been charged with it. That's because your district attorney there has decided, he's not a violent guy. Their quote was, "He's not a violent guy, so we're not going to charge him." Possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, possession of narcotics with a firearm by a convicted felon. They charged him because they did not charge him because he wasn't violent. Clearly, they were correct, Craig. He's not violent. These two officers probably just shot each other. That's probably how it happened, right? No, this guy's a murdering scumbag, and I'm glad he's dead.
Well, it's interesting. So, okay, so yeah, I read through it one more time, and so he burglarized his grandparents' home. He said more than 10 years ago, resulting in a strike, and then he was arrested in 2020 and charged for a felon in possession. Completely and utterly ignored 2011, where he served 2 years. In 2011, he served 2 years for burglary.
Right.
According to
That's
court
the first one,
records,
yeah.
he served 1 year and 4 months sentence for vehicle theft in 2009. So that's
That's the
actually
second
two
one.
crimes that he committed.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So then this
Yep.
was the third. Now, mind you,
Yes.
now he said this was standard, but according to federal law, a felon in possession of a firearm can get up to 10 years, right?
Yeah.
Here's somebody who is not only a third striker, but a felon in possession of a firearm. I'm like, dude, how can you say, giving the dude a year and a couple of months? Well, once again, it's an example of what happens when you are soft on crime, when you basically say we're going to decriminalize crime, we're going to treat the criminals like they are the victims. What happens is they eventually will commit a crime so heinous that you are going to have to keep them locked up. And sadly, nowadays, that crime is basically, in this case, shooting two officers.
Yeah, absolutely right. This, like I said, this guy should have been in jail, but your district attorney out there, California, great on you for electing this guy and keeping him. He's in possession of a firearm, is a felon in possession of a firearm, committing another felony while he's there. It wasn't like they just caught him with the firearm.
Right.
They had the drugs as well, So this was multiple crimes that the state attorney or your district attorney out there did not prosecute on, did not bring charges forth when he could have. This is all preventable, 100%. This is the same kind of tragedy, Craig, as a gun-free zone school sign. That keeps that's going to protect our children. That's going to protect our children. It's that kind of tragedy, 100% preventable.
Let us be clear, folks. If you have someone who is running for a law enforcement post, wherever you are, I don't care if it's in your state or in your city or in your county, if you hear them talk about equity more than you hear them talk about protecting victims, if you hear them talk about social justice more than you hear them talk about justice, that is a person you want to run from. You do not want that person.
Yeah.
You don't want them as a DA. You do not want them as a sheriff. You do not want them as a police chief. You do not want them representing you, because in the end, you will get what many of these folks have gotten, and that is lawlessness in the streets. And when I say lawlessness, I'm not just talking about petty crimes. And yes, those will go up. Petty crimes will go up. Property crimes will go up. Violent crimes will go up. Murders will go up. Rapes will go up. All of those will increase, because as far as they're concerned, they're really never going to do anything to us until. Until.
Don't do it. Don't vote for him, folks. Don't no matter what. Just and then work to get them out, just like they've done in San Francisco, just like they're working on in Los Angeles. Work to get their butts out.
Get them out. I mean, if you want to be safe, if you want to have your home and your property defended.
Yeah, there you go. They do it.
All right, moving right along. Now this one, Mike, you remember the story about what happened back I believe it was in September, when the Haitian immigrants were coming across the border?
Yahoo!
And they decided, Border Patrol agents were trying to kind of keep them from coming across the border, and were attempting to position their horses to prevent them from crossing the river there at the southern border. And you had law enforcement officers were then accused, based on a photo or two, of strapping or beating people as they were coming across the border. These Haitian immigrants, and you had the president, even the president himself, just came out and lambasted them. Well, first of all, after the guy who took the photo said, yeah, nobody beat anybody, nobody hit anybody. After video was then released, after there was an investigation, right? They still are now looking to imply or inflict administrative charges against these folks. They're trying to get them out. They're trying to get them out of their jobs because the president said so. And now this is the head of the border agents union, who is basically he's got a few choice words for the president and what he is attempting to do here.
We know that they did nothing wrong. We know that it was a powder keg. We know that they were sent there to do a specific job, and they did that job, and now they're coming back to be vilified. This is President Biden using his political powers to go after what he perceives as political enemies. That should never happen in this country.
So you're saying that quote we just ran there when he said those people will pay, that something has to happen because of that statement. That's the point you're making.
Absolutely. He convicted these individuals without any evidence whatsoever. He had nothing. He had still photos that, of course, the media blew up to mean something that it wasn't. He didn't look at all of the photos. There were plenty of photos that clearly showed that nobody was strapped, and he still went after these individuals. That's the executive authority, and that should never happen in the United States. But again, we don't know exactly what the charges are. We know that the charges are going to come down. It's not going to be announced. This process is supposed to be a silent process, but of course it gets leaked to the media. That's what we see under this president. But we will vigorously defend these agents.
It does seem like we'll wait. We'll see what the charges are, but it does just on it right now today feel like an egregious abuse of power. And to me, these agents deserve an apology, not more condemnation. And the other thing is, don't we need all the workers that we could possibly get to actually be doing their jobs on the border? These gentlemen have not worked since last September.
Yeah, we're 2,000 agents understaffed what we're supposed to be right now on the border. We are dealing with the biggest crisis that has ever been seen in this country. Right now, at this time of the year, we should be apprehending around 30,000 people. We're upwards of 250,000 people right now. And that's astronomical. And we need every single resource. We need every single person that we can have. They knew that this wasn't going to be criminal. They knew that there was no criminal charges. They knew they couldn't control that process. These agents should have been in the field. They left them out of the field as one of the forms of punishment. What this does is it sends a clear message to every single Border Patrol agent that you will be punished if you do your job.
And that is, well, but here, the funny part is that's not just to border enforcement. Any law enforcement agent, they're telling them if you do your job, you will be punished.
That's the message. Hey, listen, there's what the law says, and then there's what our administration says. And if you do one and not the other, you're going to be punished.
Right. Well, and they can't show President Biden to be a liar. So therefore, they're not going to do. They've got to find some reason to punish these Border Patrol agents. And like you said, like they were saying, look, we're seeing unprecedented surge in the terms of the number of people coming across the border. Normally, it's in the 30,000 range per month. Now it's over 250,000 per month. And what are you going to do? I mean,
you're let them all in now, not working. I'll let them all in. I'm going to give them green cards. And I'm going to let them vote. That's what I'm going to do. You want to know the reason why, folks? Why they let them in? Because if they let them in, they give them IDs, then they give them checks, and buy their votes. That's all they do.
Well, what's funny is they're already seeing though that it's not working because a lot of the people who are coming here, who are getting eligible, and who are actually voting, who are coming, they're not voting for Democrats because they're like, we need our borders enforced. Now that I'm here legally, I didn't want my borders enforced.
Exactly right. Yeah. No, and that is happening quite frequently. That's there are a number of them that are putting the R next to their name when they're heading to the voting booth, but it's still majority with the D, and those dummies are falling right into place as the Democrats have planned. For these people to be their little voting minions.
Yep. Okay, so moving on to our parting shot, and this is kind of related. So, Ron DeSantis has actually gotten the support of a very important immigrant to the United States.
African-American immigrant, yeah.
An African-American immigrant, by the way, who did not come across the southern border, just so you know.
No, did not. No.
Ron DeSantis has gotten it appears to have the support of Elon Musk, or at least Elon Musk has said he's planning on voting for Governor Ron DeSantis should he run for president. And Ron DeSantis responded that he embraces the backing of Elon Musk, joking he welcomes the support from African Americans. And believe it or not, yes, he is South African. Therefore, he is an African American by definition, if not, any other way.
Yep.
Oh, that is hilarious. And some folks are going to say some stuff about that, right? It's like, you can't take a joke, even if it isn't a joke. He definitely welcomes the support of African Americans.
Yeah. Yes, he does.
And by the way, you can either support him or you can support the other guy who has said that he is going to be running for president again. That's right. Joe Biden has said that he's going to be running for president again. And in fact, I think we have his official announcement here available for folks to check out.
I think we do.
Okay, here is his official announcement. This was a statement officially released by President Joe Biden about his re-election campaign. Couples be together 20 years and end up under the mountain. Strangers have went to McDonald's and found Jesus. Some people get married after 6 months and still can't download navigation. Point is, there is no formula to eating tomatoes. Do what the alligator says. Touchdown, Lakers. That's from Joe Biden.
I think that was actually part of the AFL-CIO speech the other day. That's what he was yelling at people.
I do believe it was that and the yelling.
Yeah.
All right, and I think we got one more. We have one more parting shot here.
A bonus parting shot. Here we go.
I had to include this one because you do know that there was a ruling on the right to bear arms that should be coming down. There's only 4 days left in June, right? There's 4 days left in June because they usually come out with their opinions or rulings Mondays and Wednesdays, and there's only 2 Mondays and 2 Wednesdays left. So it's going to be coming out soon.
I was like, it's just like the 16th. How can it be 4 days left in June? All right.
Yeah, they usually Mondays and Wednesdays, and there's only a couple of them left.
Craig's doing his time travel thing again. But all right, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, there you go.
4 Mondays and Wednesdays. 4 Mondays and Wednesdays. Yes, sir. You're correct. Yeah.
Okay. Here now, for those of you who are listening to the audio version, there's a wolf sitting here, and he is labeled the left. He is tethered to he's on a leash that is held to the ground by an what appears to be an AR-15, a semi-automatic centerfire assault rifle that says the
weapon of war.
Weapon of war, and he's looking at a rabbit. And he's saying to the rabbit, "You don't understand. I want to get rid of it to help protect you." Recognizing that the Second Amendment is the only thing that is preventing the left from attacking the rabbit. And needless to say, the rabbit looks sufficiently, what's the word I'm looking for? Skeptical.
Perplexed. Yeah.
Perplexed. Yeah. He doesn't look like he believes the wolf.
No. He does not. In fact, he can smell rabbit sauce on his breath. He's like,
fun stuff. All right, Mike. It's about that time, sir, to give a shout out to our sponsors.
Let's say hey to our good friends at Gorilla Machining, Grid Defense, the California Republican Assembly, and USCombatGear.com.
As I always remind you, their links to their websites are in the description to this video or this audio podcast. All you got to do, go check them out. I promise you'll see something that you'll like. You'll see something that you want. You'll see something that you want to be a part of. So go ahead, partake, and make sure you let them know that the folks over at The Rundown sent you. With
That's
that,
us.
about that time, it's about that time for us to say that we're Run DMC and Jam Master Jay. Nice dance moves, Mike. But hey, we're done for the day. We will be back tomorrow on Feedback Friday. Once again, please remember, like, share, subscribe, and encourage your friends to do the same.